I grew up in Minnesota, actually, Twin Cities area. Made my way across the border and went to UW Oshkosh, which is a Division III school. So attended and played there. Got my degree in physical education. So I knew that I wanted to do something in teaching, but I also love and have a passion for the sport of soccer. So after kind of graduating from college, was introduced to the idea of being a graduate assistant coach, where I could kind of try coaching, but also, kind of go to graduate school as well. So was able to do that at Winona State, which is a Division II school right on the border of Minnesota and Wisconsin. And so with my 2 years there, it really opened up my eyes to coaching, and kind of what the college coaching was all about. And I absolutely fell in love with it. So I got my master's degree in leadership while I was there. So, really nice to be able to learn more about leadership, but also soccer as well. And then after I finished my 2 years there, I went to Loyola University in Chicago. So Division I program, I was one of the assistant coaches. While I was there, I mostly worked with the goalkeepers, while also running kind of field player sessions, as well. And then kind of got immersed into everything. So the recruiting aspect, the current players, and then, the alumni, and just kind of building a program all together, which then transitioned me now into Benedictine. So now being the head women's soccer coach there, Division III, I wanted to come back to my roots. I love the student athlete experience at the Division III level. I think there's a lot of support and opportunity that players can find, where when they're done with their 4 years, they can hopefully look back and, really be happy with their kind of experience that they got. As far as our university, we are a private Catholic university, but that shouldn't scare people, because you do not need to be Catholic to attend Benedictine. We have that background. It's something that if you want to, you can, but you absolutely do not have to. And our team is a good mixture of both. And so that's what's also really cool, is we can kind of support that faith background, but also you can come to just play soccer and, get a degree.
Cool.
We do compete in the NAC. There are now going to be 14 total schools in the conference. And basically we're in Illinois and Wisconsin. So we're pretty local. We're adding St. Norbert's, who will be a little bit of a trip for us. But otherwise, kind of the Chicago suburb area, as well as the more Milwaukee suburb area.
Right. Okay.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
So myself and a couple other members of our staff, we played college soccer, and like you, I just fell in love with the student athlete experience. And I didn't really know a lot about it, coming from Wales, and ended up going to it was a private Catholic school as well. So it was
Okay.
Yeah, didn't know what to expect. It was exactly the same, lots of people there just to play soccer. So no, it's cool, and it's great to, congratulations now that you've been able to now head coach in a position, which is cool. It's something that maybe one day after club soccer, I think maybe I'll kind of look at. But for now, I'm good with the younger ones. So yeah, yeah. So in terms of so we get a lot of this question with our parents and players, about when is it good to start actually the recruitment process. So we have people from seniors saying, is it too late now, to freshmen saying, is it too early? So, you can talk general if you want, or you can talk more about your program, whatever, you can kind of, in between the two. But what would you kind of say would your answer be for that?
Yeah, I would say, especially right now for seniors, it's not too late. And I think at any point, COVID or non-COVID, I don't think it's ever too late to start or really immerse yourself into the recruiting process. I believe programs are kind of always looking to build and add, some maybe more than others. I think that there's some Division III schools that are done, and they're not really looking for seniors anymore. But then there's others like myself, who just recently took over a program and looking to really add, grow, and kind of increase that number. And so I think the best thing you can do in a recruiting process is ask a coach, and if the coach should respond and at least give you an honest answer, as far as, yes, we still are recruiting your class, or no, unfortunately, we're not recruiting your class. And while it may kind of be hard to ask that question, I think it's what's best for kind of the prospective student athletes, because then they at least know that they're not looking at Northwestern and saying, oh, are they still recruiting seniors right now? Well, probably not, but you can always ask. And again, hopefully that coach is respectful enough to actually give you that response. And I think that, us as coaches, we try to be as respectful and responsive as possible. To start the process, I think as freshmen in high school, you can, but also realize that, I think the most important years are kind of that sophomore, junior year, because you're developing, you're growing as not only a person, but a player. And so, even from my Division I days, we would look at freshmen, but we also know that there's going to be a lot of growth and development over the next 2 years, that things can change. Your body's changing, your emotions are changing, your mind is changing. So there's kind of a lot of things that are happening that I don't think it's wrong to start, but you may just not get the answers that the seniors are getting as a freshman. So,
Right.
If you start it that early, just be patient, and realize that it is going to take a little bit longer, just because you are starting it so early.
Yeah. And I always try and tell parents that, the magic day of, is it June 15th of sophomore year, you can call people, right? And all that. And, coaches are compiling lists all the time. So, you don't want to leave it too late, because you might be, towards the end of the queue or whatever,
Yep.
but, always starting early. Would you suggest that freshmen attend ID camps?
I would. Yeah, I think ID camps are really important to just get exposure, not only for you as a potential, player going into college, but also for that coach, to see you. As I mentioned, there's still going to be a lot of growth and development, but it may spark something out of that coach to say, oh, wow, you are really strong on the technical side. You are going to grow and develop into something even better, but let's connect in a year after that growth happens. But I would say that ID camps, especially starting as freshmen, really starts that exposure.
Yeah. That's great, and it's good to start early and then just build the relationships with coaches. So that's what we've been telling our families as well. Start now, attend ID camps. We do have a lot of even 7th and 8th graders, I think, going to some of these camps as well. So along the lines of that, then, are there any ID camps that you personally or would always go to? And then for college showcases, because we've done a lot of those, are there any specific showcases that you go to or would recommend for players and clubs to go to?
Yeah, I think on the side of the ID camps, go to ones that you're interested in. People always ask me, well, am I wasting my money if I'm going to 20 different ID camps? Maybe, because you may not be going or wanting to go to all 20 of those schools. So I think doing your research, saying, hey, do I want to attend Benedictine? Is this maybe a school that I want to go to? Because usually when you're in ID camp, that coach is running it, that you're going to see their coaching style, how they run it. More than likely, some players are going to be there. So you're going to start to see the environment at that school. Not to say some ID camps have multiple colleges there, but again, do your research. If Northwestern's going to be at Loyola's ID camp, maybe Loyola's, you don't know, but if you want the Northwestern coach to see you, maybe you will go to that ID camp, but you have to let them know beforehand too. So just, I think the research end of that is really important. And same thing on the showcase end, that, if if the majority of the team or, the player wants to attend a Midwest university, then showcases in the Midwest are probably the best choice.
Right.
Especially now being in the Division III world, like we don't have a lot of resources. I can't just hop on a plane and fly to Florida to go watch an Illinois team, especially when I can drive 20 minutes to go
Yeah.
watch an Illinois team. So I think a regional is important as well as who's, attended that showcase kind of in the past is more than likely who's going to attend it in the future. And, just finding out what sort of areas really pull for those certain tournaments and showcases.
Right. And then just going back to the ID camps, and this is something because you mentioned, maybe the Northwestern coach will be going to the Loyola one, and something that I'm doing research in. I didn't realize that college coaches, they go to each other's ID camps all the time. So I was thinking when I was first starting to research this, is that if Loyola has a ID camp, it's just Loyola. When in fact, there's going to be, tons of different coaches there. So, definitely take advantage of that, and don't be afraid that, oh, it's Loyola, I'm not going to play there. Just go and see what happens.
Exactly.
Yeah, and great advice from the showcases too. We do a lot of showcases. We have traveled to further afield than Illinois, but yeah, no, that's good advice of that. So in terms of with showcases, because there's a lot of players there, and I guess coaches, they get emails all the time. What could a certain player or family do to kind of get a coach's attention? What do you kind of to make you actually open the email and read and respond and all that?
I think my first thing is personalize it. When I read it and I feel like you just hit send all and it was sent out to 100 coaches, then I don't know if I want you, because do you actually want to come to me, or are you
Yeah.
just trying to get attention? So I think personalizing it, even doing something small as saying like, hey, I checked out Lyle on the map and it's right next to Naperville. That's really cool because downtown Naperville is a lot of fun to go and visit. Well, there you go. You just personalized it for me.
Nice.
And it was probably took you about 2 seconds to realize that we're 5 minutes from Naperville. So doing something on that end, especially as you get to see in the Division II and the Division I level, since I've been a part of all three, Division I coaches, they hate seeing those, especially if you say "Go Badgers" at the end. Yeah, that's not good. If you say another team's mascot at the end of your letter. So I think personalizing it is super important. So personalizing it to the college as well as personalizing it to yourself as a player. So selling yourself a little bit, but also not overselling. Because to have a whole long email, unfortunately, we're probably not going to sit there and read through it all.
Yeah.
Now, if you highlight maybe 2, at most 3 paragraphs, just to kind of highlight who you are as a person, who you are as a player, and why you want to go to, Benedictine, great. That's all you need to do, especially in an introductory email or trying to invite a coach to watch you at a tournament. And then the most important things to include when you're at a tournament, your number, because not all the time do we receive the roster books or pamphlets. Right. So I need to know your jersey number, what position you play. And then even if you have lime green shoes, include that so then I can find you that much easier. Because it's really frustrating when I'm trying to guess who Susie is and I have no idea who you are if you didn't give me your number or your position or anything besides your name.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah. The less work for you, the better, right? Because you're there to see tons of kids. So yeah, that's very good advice. Just quickly, advice for, we don't usually have to do this for the girls. It's usually we have to say this to high school boys. But when you're emailing a coach, use a professional sounding email address. Don't use something that someone's gonna look and be like, So that would be a big advice that I've sent out. Usually the girls, you don't have to worry about it as much, but
yeah, even just making like oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine.
even just making like a Gmail that's like Katie Berkopek 2022 at gmail.com. Now I know in your email your first name, your last name, and what your grad year is.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that is good.
Like that I think, because you can make a Gmail account, you can make a Comcast, you can make those accounts. So I think doing that already kind of starts off the bat that I know who you are.
Yeah. No, it's very good advice. That's something I'll probably pass on, definitely. Um,
Yeah.
so in terms of the email then, so I know you kind of touched it a little bit. So with highlights, talking about highlight video now, how often do you watch highlight video of players? How important is it? And then what really should they include? And obviously you don't want it, a full game, but what's your kind of your take on that?
Yeah, I do watch highlight videos. I think the perfect amount of time is 3 to 5 minutes. More than 5 minutes, more than likely a coach probably isn't going to watch it. Just in the sense of after a 5 minute quick glimpse, that will either spark a coach's interest or maybe not spark their interest. Even though I don't think it's fully fair to evaluate somebody on a 5 minute highlight,
Yeah.
but it at least gives that coach like an appetizer to hopefully say, hey, now I want to, see the main course. I want to kind of see the meat of it. In the highlight video itself, I think it's important, make sure we know who you are in the highlight video. So if you can do like a little circle or pause it, or again, include your number so I know who you are. That's really important, as well as, don't just show like 2 seconds of, I just, received a ball and passed it. Well, that's great, but what did you do 5 seconds before that so that you got in a good position in order to
Right.
receive the ball? But also, what did you do 5 seconds after you passed that ball? Did you just stand still and then watch your team and say, oh, that was really nice? Or did you actually, maybe I passed the ball, I moved into space, I created, this opportunity here, and then I provided support here? Because we're also looking for what happens like right after or right before, which really shows you kind of as like a true soccer player and how
Yeah.
you develop within the play.
Perfect. And would you recommend, you know, making a note of, what game it is or what level it is, or you're not really interested in that? You're just focused on the actual physical play of it.
Probably more on the play. I don't think it necessarily hurts if we know what game it is. You know, I think it kind of depends on maybe what the highlight might be. Like if you just scored the game-winning goal against the top team, in whatever division,
Yeah.
that may be worthwhile. But if it's just a normal kind of regional game, I don't I don't think coaches are truly going to evaluate you on that. I think they're more going to let you as a player and kind of your actual abilities.
Right. Okay. No, that's perfect. That's good advice. Because we've had a couple of people saying that, should we include that? It's like, well, sometimes it's hard to differentiate. Is it a good level? But yeah, definitely, if you score the goal against the top team, then we'll definitely make a note of that.
Yes.
So cool. So I think next we'll kind of go on to kind of what it means to be a college athlete.
Hmm.
So I don't know if it's just too early for you now in your new position, or you could just talk in general terms. But what would be like a typical day for I suppose Division 3 now, of an actual college soccer player? What's the day to day and in the in season and then in the off season too? Like what's kind of expected of a student athlete?
Yeah. So, kind of looking at it first when we're in season, which is right away when you come in the fall. Basically, we kind of jump right into it. So, mid-August is when they report for preseason, which will be about a week or two before school starts. And then when school starts, our normal week is going to look like we're practicing or playing games 6 out of the 7 days of the week. So, we're required to give one day off, and a week may look like we're practicing Monday, Tuesday, game Wednesday, practice Thursday, Friday, game Saturday, off on Sunday. And then as far as what a specific day may look like, we found we may practice in the mornings, so do more of like a 6 to 8 a.m.
Okay.
That way we can get in, get our soccer done, kind of, check that off. So then the rest of the day they have for their classes, maybe an internship, a job, and then just other activities on campus as well. So, I've really found that a lot of our student athletes are not only athletes and a student, but they're also involved in a lot of other things kind of on campus. And they love those opportunities. And I want to be able to support that and allow them to do it, as well as a job. I mean, I get it. People have to work. Some people financially have to, help with college and whatnot. And so, the morning practices kind of help with that so that people can kind of do what they need to do throughout the day. And then in the off season, as at the Division III level, we're not able to kind of do soccer with them until it was basically mid-January through mid-March. They're just doing strength and conditioning with our strength and conditioning coach, and then usually playing pickup or some 5v5, 6v6 in our gym once or twice a week, kind of on top of the strength and conditioning. And then once we hit mid-March, we're able to have about a month of practices, with one of those days being kind of like a scrimmage game date. And then when the semester ends and summer hits, our athletes are allowed to go home and kind of do what they need to do for the summer. But there is the expectation that you're working out, doing weightlifting, doing conditioning, and preparing yourself kind of for season when we come for the fall.
Right. And would you recommend, doing any summer leagues? Because I know that we have a U23 league, we have WPSL. So is that something that coaches, want their athletes to do in the summer so that, by August that they're ready?
Yes, 100%. I think for the game of soccer, sometimes it can be hard to truly condition and prep yourself for the season if you aren't playing soccer. Now, it can be done, but I think the best way to train and prep yourself is to actually play a game. And that was something too when, goalkeepers would always ask me that too. Like, how do I actually get ready for the season? How do I get proper training in and this and that? Or how do I work on a breakaway save? Well, the best way to do it is to be in a game situation and actually see that. So even on, the goalkeeper side as well as the field player side, I think it's really important to kind of get that experience.
Right. And by the way, the preseason in August, I used to love it because essentially you would have the campus to yourself. It was
Mm-hmm.
great.
Yes.
It was an
Yes.
interesting experience, but yeah, it was really good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so another thing that crops up a little bit, and this can be a confusing one. So I'm not saying that you're going to have all the answers, but talking about the NCAA Eligibility Center,
Mm-hmm.
if you can briefly just say what it is, and then how important it is to actually go and enroll or sign up for it, or whatever it is you kind of do.
Yeah. So, basically that's when you get into college and being a student athlete at the college level, there's a lot more rules that we have and that we have to follow, not only as players, but also as coaches and university. And basically that's what the NCAA is that they more put into effect those rules and make sure that they're followed. For the eligibility center, that's just kind of like a tracking to make sure that you're prepped and ready before coming to college, so that we know that kind of everything's straight away, all the boxes are checked, and that academically, athletically, you're ready to go. So I know it affects some other sports more so in the way of like, if you go overseas and play professionally, let's just say, and then you come back, well, that's going to have a conflict with your eligibility and the NCAA and different rules that you have. And I guess that could be for soccer too. You could also go overseas and play, but I think more so, it's just to kind of make sure that you're all ready and, I guess I could say, legally approved to play,
Right.
even though, it's not that huge of a deal, but it's also, you have to do it so that, kind of on our end, we're making sure that we're staying compliant with the NCAA.
Right. And that also goes academically as well, right? With the high school grades and all that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Just to make sure that they're fine and they've took the right classes and everything.
Exactly. Yep.
Um, so why? So I think I don't know if this is a perception of Division Three soccer, and there's a lot of good Division Three soccer programs out there, but I think sometimes maybe families will see Division Three, no scholarships, they might be put off. So what would you say to families that don't be put off by Division Three because there's not scholarships, and making sure that it's actually a strong program? What would you say to families that are concerned about that?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, there are scholarships available on the academic side at Division Three. So even for us at Benedictine, I like to say, the sticker price that's listed on the website, it's especially at a private school, it's never what you're going to pay. There's merit-based aid, so that's all based on kind of your academics and what your kind of academically status is in high school, and automatically you're going to get X amount of money kind of towards tuition. And then there's other scholarships that you can get, whether it's about your personal background or your soccer background or different things like that. And so I like to compare it to the clothing store Kohl's, that you never pay the full price for a Nike sweatshirt. There's always going to be some sort of sale. You're going to have Kohl's cash, and you're always going to get it down to where it's a more reasonable price. And so, and I think the other thing to keep in mind too is even at the Division One level, not all the players are getting full rides. I mean, even speaking from Loyola, like there was never a point where, there was minimal who actually got a full ride scholarship. They would get help athletically, but also Loyola being a private school, I mean, there's student athletes who are still paying a comparable to, Division Three, even more than a Division Three institute. But that's just kind of the choice that they wanted to make. And so I don't think it's always where, well, you're going Division One, so you're getting a full ride. No, because
Yeah.
the most a Division One school can have is 14 scholarships. And then when you look at the roster, usually they have maybe 28 to 30. So clearly 14 does not equal 28.
Yeah.
So, you can never have everybody on a full ride. So I think that's one thing too, is that, there might be some help at the Division One and Division Two level, but I don't think it's where it's to a point that, there's still help at the Division Three level, just not from me specifically, but, from the school and where your status is, there is going to be help.
Yeah, and I think that's something that many probably don't realize is that oh, they don't give athletic scholarships. Well, there's definitely ways to get around it and to get you playing. And like you said,
Exactly.
don't pay the sticker price. I like that saying.
Yes.
So do you personally ever use any recruiting services? And if so, are they helpful? Is it just kind of a first contact type of thing for you? If you use it, or do you even use them essentially?
Yeah, I would say definitely now at Benedictine, I use them more than we did at Loyola. I think, it also depends on the coach too. From what I've realized is that with me making relationships with club coaches and other, organizations or ODP or different things in and around the state, I've grown relationships where sometimes it's word of mouth about learning about a player or seeing a player. But honestly, I think that's another kind of appetizer that we can get is, here's your profile. Here's kind of that quick snapshot of who you are, potentially a highlight video. And sometimes it honestly provides more contact information that we may not have access to. Because I feel like sometimes I'm all of a sudden like, oh, I need to contact this player. And either their email's not on the brochure or their cell phone is the incorrect number, or, so I do see positives in it. But also I think perspectives need to use it. Like, you kind of need to sell that too. Like, don't be afraid to say, hey, here's my profile, check it out, or reference this if you want more information. So I do believe some coaches use it. I think it just all depends on kind of their personal preference.
Right. Okay. Because we've kind of encouraging our high school players now is to actually have an online profile and link that in emails and too. So yeah, like you said, I think it's pretty good to have that quick snapshot of who the person is, and then you can kind of go from there.
Yeah.
It's perfect. And so I know you mentioned the dreaded pandemic before, just briefly. So a question on it is that has it affect, I mean, I don't know if you're doing any Zoom conferences with parents and players, but has it affected recruiting at all? And then I know a few weeks ago NCAA came out with a rule that everyone's getting an extra year of eligibility, so has that affected recruiting in or is it kind of too early to tell?
I think on the recruiting aspect, from what I've seen, is it slowed things down. Which honestly I don't think is the worst thing, because I think on the female side things started to move a little too fast. As I mentioned before, with just you saw like freshmen and sophomores starting to commit to a university, and maybe they hadn't even visited or they didn't even meet the coach in person, but oh my gosh, Loyola's giving me a scholarship, so I'm going to say yes. And that's where you also see right now at the college level that there's a lot of transfers, because those kids committed so early that they didn't truly know what they wanted. Or maybe they wanted nursing and then they realized that university doesn't even have nursing. Well, that's not really going to help you for your career and your future. So, I think that now I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
No, back to COVID. Yes, there we go. See, COVID's doing this to me.
Yeah, everyone wants to forget it, but
yes.
oh yeah.
But no, I think it slowed it down to let people actually do the research and figure out where they want to go, why they want to go there. I think the only thing that COVID has kind of really put that hurts me a little bit is that experience of getting people on campus. Like, I know right now, Division I, you can't recruit now until April 15th. And, when you're giving out offers and maybe you're doing Zoom calls, but I feel like it's that feeling you get when you're on campus. That's when like, oh, I want to go to Benedictine. It just felt right. Like, can't put a word on it.
Yeah.
It's just that feeling that you get. And that's where I think we're losing that right now, because people can't travel. You can't go to some campuses you can go to, but it's either no students are there or you just don't get that like college feeling.
Yeah.
And so that's where right now I think it is okay that people are taking longer to make decisions. Because I truly feel like as a perspective, you need to have that feeling. You need to know, like, this is the place for me and this is actually where I want to go. Because you don't want the first time stepping on campus, your first day of preseason, because you will not like it.
Yeah.
I will tell you that you won't. So, I think that that's inhibited it a little bit. And then as far as, with the extra year of eligibility, I think you're going to see it more at the Division I level, maybe the Division II level, because a lot of those, because they do have some athletic scholarship, and that, if that coach decides to extend that, then it may be easier for them to afford an extra year. But what I'm finding, especially at Benedictine, is I would love to keep my 5 seniors. I want to keep my 5 seniors, but it's either they want to move on in their life and their career, and they're kind of like, you know what, it's time. It's time for me to move on. Or 2, financially, you plan for 4 years of college, and to add on even potentially just another semester may be a little draining on them. And so, I think you're seeing more staying at the higher divisions versus the lower. And that's just briefly kind of what I've observed.
Okay. Yeah, because I think when I saw that news, I was thinking, you know, are people not going to want to recruit because they're essentially going to have, you know, all their players still. But yeah, if you know, it's understandable if a senior wants to leave when their time is up. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's a tricky one and something I don't envy at the moment. Okay, so last question. I don't want to keep you here forever.
No worries.
So like I said, we're going to send this out to all the high school players, you know, so they can kind of meet you and stuff like that and learn what you've got to say. And I think that's really cool. If there are any
Mhm.
2021 grads and 2022 grads that are watching this, what positions are you looking for? You know, if someone's seeing this, say, hey, that if she has a, you know, Coach Katie has a need, I can fill it. You know, what are you actually looking for the next couple of recruiting classes?
I'm looking for all positions.
Okay.
um, I know that sounds so bad. So kind of where we are right now, Benedictine. So I came in, and currently on our roster, we only have 18. And when we come into fall of 21, we're only going to be returning 12.
Okay.
So even as I mentioned, I want to keep my seniors, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to happen. And so I think what happened was the previous head coach, he left kind of right when the pandemic hit. And so there really was no recruiting, there was no building of relationships through that time. And so with me coming in, I'm trying to kind of build, grow, and develop from where we're at. And so, especially for the 21 class, if there are any seniors, you know, still out there that, you know, you still want to find a home and you want to, you know, check out Benedictine, please reach out to me. I would love to have a conversation, get to know you more as a person. And that's kind of where I'm at in the 21 classes. I'm trying to develop relationships right now because I believe that's important too, is to really get to know who we're going to bring into our program. And then,
Right.
you know, for the 22 class, that's where I think, you know, I may have even a better idea as we get into once I know what the 21 class will look like. But at this point, you know, I'm having conversations, I'm having some campus visits, and I'm really just talking to anybody who's interested in the 22 class. And even if you're just interested within the recruiting process, like that's part of my job too, is to just help you, which
Yeah.
is why we're doing this. You know, I want to be able to help and guide and kind of teach through the process as well. And so, with the 22 class, for one, I'm in no rush. And I think a lot of coaches right now are at that point too, where, you know, I think we do have time and we do have time to really get to know the person and whatnot. And so, as far as positions, I think for, you know, Benedictine, it's if we're of interest to you, you know, being out in Lisle, you know, we have about 4,000 undergrad students. You know, we're, like I said, right outside of Naperville, you know, and we maybe spark your interest, would love to have a conversation.
Sounds good.